Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my New Zealand Herald podcast, Ask Me Anything. Now, one thing I've learnt in life is it's never too late to learn something new. So on this podcast, I talk to people from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. Today, an incredible woman who we first met on MasterChef in 2011. She wowed us then. And she wows us now. Since then, she basically hasn't sat still. She's released cookbooks, co-founded meal kit companies, made TV shows, and somehow found time to also become a farmer and a mum and a wife. She is Nadia Lim, of course. And today we celebrate her cookbook, Easy Weeknight Meals. The book has been so popular with Kiwi families, it's been re-released to celebrate its 10th anniversary. I'm so excited to have Nadia Lim joining me today. Hi, Nadia.
Kia ora, Paula. It's lovely to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
I'm rapt to be able to have a chat. Okay, shall we do some quick fire questions? What is on the top of the bucket list?
Africa. Yeah.
I like
Definitely
it.
Africa. My husband, he was so lucky to get to travel for 4 months last year by himself because he won an international farming scholarship. So great for him. But I got left behind at home with the 3 kids and business and everything. But he said one of the places he traveled to was Zimbabwe, and he said it just blew his mind how incredibly beautiful Africa was, and yeah, it really makes me want to go there. So that's definitely top of the bucket list.
And imagine taking the children, yeah, what an experience for them as well. Okay, are you a morning person or a night owl? Do you have a choice?
I used to be a night owl. Like Carlos and I used to work up until almost midnight and go to bed really late. But that was kind of pre-kids. And with kids, you're forced to be a morning person. So I think I've got a pretty good balance. Like I go to bed, about 10 o'clock and wake up 6:30. So I don't know if I'm either or. Yeah,
that's
kind of
all right.
in the middle.
That's all right. Okay, I mentioned your cookbook in the introduction, Easy Weeknight Meals, has just been re-released for its 10th anniversary. You were very young when you knew you wanted to write cookbooks, around 12, I think.
Yeah, it was.
Good. So what would 12-year-old Nadia say to you now that you not only have written all these cookbooks, but here's one that's so popular that it's being re-released 10 years later?
Wow, I don't think 12-year-old Nadia would have quite believed it. I don't know if someone had told me back when I was 12 years old that this would be my life now at almost 40. I would have been like, wow, that sounds amazing. That's so cool. But I don't know if I can quite believe it yet. But yes, absolutely stoked. It's what I always wanted to do. 12 years old, I watched Jamie Oliver on The Naked Chef, and I was like, I want to be like that guy. I want to write cookbooks and have a cooking TV show and just get people really excited and enthusiastic about tasty, nutritious food as much as I was. Yeah.
12 is young, though, really, to have that vision and have that passion for it. And most 12-year-olds kind of dream about McDonald's.
Yeah, I know. I feel incredibly lucky that at 12 I had like a really strong compass and I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. And then kind of from that point on, everything I did was with the vision and focus of this is what I'm going to do in the future. Like so at 13, at high school, I made sure I started doing food techs. I was like, this is my subject. This is what I'm really good at, what I love doing. And I lived for food tech classes. And so I always came top in them. And then I went to university to study nutrition and dietetics, because I was very passionate about the health and nutrition side of food as well. And then, the opportunity for MasterChef came up. So, yeah, everything I kind of did from the point of 12 years old, I was like, it's to reach this point.
Do you think you got that passion for food at such a young age from your parents? I mean, you've got the Malaysian influence, you've got the Kiwi influence. There's a lot of really good stuff there and a lot of very good food. Did it come from them?
Yes. Well, my mum just walked in, and I think she'll laugh if I say that the passion came from her, because it definitely didn't. But my dad, on the other hand, was an amazing cook. He sadly passed away 11 years ago, but he was just someone who could, one of those people that could throw entire meal together without a recipe and without a plan. Like he'd just get ingredients together and throw a really good meal together. He had that knack, and he got that from his Chinese mother. So I'd say maybe kind of natural genetics talent came from that side. But growing up in Malaysia from the age of 6 to 13 years old absolutely helped, because life there is just centered around food. I mean, all the conversations involve what's for breakfast, what's for lunch, what's for dinner, what's for supper, and everyone's always talking about what they're going to eat. And you also get a real big melting pot of different cuisines. You know, there's Malay, Chinese, Indian, Vietnamese, Thai, even Portuguese food over there. So yeah, that absolutely had a big influence on my culinary talents, I'd say.
I just want to say that, if, anyone listening, if there's some weird noises, it's lunchtime and I haven't eaten, and Nadia talking about all this awesome food is making my...
Me too, actually.
I'm going, that's where I might go. Hey, your recipes and cookbooks are just you've got such a huge following, and they're easy to follow, and I love them. I mean, how do you find the time? Because, when I've spoken to others that have written cookbooks, they just go, I spent months experimenting, and you've got these 3 children, you've got the farm, you've got your TV, you've got so much going on. How do you find the time for that creative energy to look at writing a book?
Well, to be completely honest with you, I don't have as much time for it as what I used to pre-kids. But luckily, I had done so much work kind of pre-kids in that space, and built up a database of, I'd say well over 1,000 recipes that... Yeah, and sometimes there's no point in reinventing the wheel. It's like I've got this incredible database of recipes that I've created over the years, and I can kind of draw from that now, inspiration from those recipes now. And you tweak them a bit, and you try it with different ingredients for a different season, and but you've still got the kind of basic recipe.
Yeah.
But this cookbook that you're talking about, Easy Weeknight Meals, so we created that cookbook over 10 years ago, and it was basically all the top-rated My Food Bag recipes at that time, and so that they've really stood the test of time. A lot of people probably don't realize how the My Food Bag recipe process works, but so when we started 12 years ago, obviously it was just me doing the recipe development, and then 6 months later I got an assistant recipe developer, and there was 2 of us, and then it grew to 3 of us. And a couple of years later, suddenly there was there would have been over a dozen recipe developers and food stylists and photographers and everything in the development kitchen. And so everything was done that way. And over the last 10 years, we've now got a recipe database at My Food Bag of, I'm going to take a guess, but it's a good guesstimation, a well-educated guesstimation, I would say 15 to 20,000 recipes in that database. Yeah, you think about, it's been going for over 12 years, and the amount of recipes we put out every week. I mean, we put out more than 30 recipes a week now. And so we've got this huge database, and we use data analytics a lot. Again, people probably don't realize, but all of our recipes from day one, we've always asked our customers to rate. Back in the day, we might get 20 people rating them, but now it's thousands of people rating them for each recipe. And so we can draw on that data. So they're rated on in terms of convenience, how fast it was to cook, how easy it was, the taste, the flavor, the nutrition aspect, like everything. And all of that data goes into I guess you call it kind of like an algorithm, and then we can pull out recipes from that algorithm. So it sounds complicated, but it's simple but complicated.
Well, complicated for you, but simple for me as a consumer, because
absolutely. Yeah. You get the best of everything. We tick off all boxes. But it's crazy to think that 10 years ago, this all used to be done manually. Like, it was so confusing. It was like a jigsaw puzzle, having to look at the whole week and go, okay, we've got chicken in this meal, so we can't use chicken again in that one. We've got salmon next week, so we can't use salmon in this one. We've used these vegetables here, but we've only used half a carrot, so we need to put that other half a carrot into another recipe so that we don't have wastage. It was such a mind puzzle, but now we have, I guess you could call it a kind of AI or an algorithm that does that for us.
So how did the idea, because it's of doing my food bag, I mean, you had your partnerships with Cecilia and James Robinson, and you had Teresa Gatting on board as well as business partners. But, it was certainly new for New Zealand at that time. And so to come up with that kind of concept and then make it real, how did that come about?
Oh, well, so Cecilia is Swedish, as you'd know. And Sweden was, I believe, the first country in the world to kind of do that recipe and ingredients delivered to your door type service. And it went really well over there. And Cecilia saw that. And being able to speak Swedish, she could do a bit of good investigation around it. And her and her husband, James, were like, oh, we think this would go well over in New Zealand. So contacted Carlos, my husband, and I, and got Teresa Gatting on board as well. And the five of us together were like, yeah, okay, let's give this a go. Let's do this. And my husband and I, we sold our house to, invest into it, to put money into it, and the rest was sweat equity. And yeah, I just looked at it from the perspective of, hey, I've been in the health industry for 4 or 5 years working as a clinical dietitian for the Auckland District Health Board, and I specialised in diabetes management. And of course, with diabetes management, the biggest effect that is lifestyle, what you eat, what your lifestyle is. And I just found it frustrating that I was only helping one person at a time with, seeing them one-on-one for consultations. And I viewed my food bag as something that could be scaled really easily to help a lot of people with the way that they ate. And I thought, hey, if this works, if this concept is actually popular and takes off, basically I could almost, kind of in a way control what people have for dinner every night. And I can make sure that they're having at least 3 different vegetables on their plate, that half their plate is vegetables, that they're having whole grain, unrefined carbohydrates. And also we can control and help make sure that it's all New Zealand grown free range produce, so that we can actually help the New Zealand producers and farmers and stuff too. So it just seemed like a brilliant concept if it worked, if people took to it. And you know what? People were skeptical about it in the beginning simply because in New Zealand no one had ever seen or heard of the concept. And even my own parents were like, why would someone want you to decide what they're going to have for dinner every night? Like, they didn't believe in it in the beginning. And then, months after we launched, they were customers every week. And they're like, this is amazing. Like, we couldn't go back. And obviously lots of other people found the same.
Cecilia and James, and they were pretty damn clever though to get you on board. I mean, really, because you've got that wonderful energy. We trusted you. We'd watched you on TV. We'd seen that. We'd read a cookbook, and then having you as that business was just like, you went, well, if Nadia thinks so, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. Like, I think there was just a bit of there was some kind of magic you can't put your finger on with the 5 of us. We all just worked so well together and brought different skills, and and we're all still really good mates today. So, and that's like 12, 13 years later. So
we do get over it though, trying to decide what to eat each night. I mean, I just think that our lives are so much busier, and and it's just like, even today I was like, oh God, I've got to go to the supermarket after this, and what am I going to buy?
It's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit like that sort of, and then if you sort of know and have mapped it out, it's so much easier. I was better organised when I was in Parliament because I kind of had to be. And it was my love language, I know everyone used to make fun of me.
Yes, I know that you love cooking.
Yeah.
I must have heard you talk somewhere about, but for some reason I know that you're a real foodie. And you enjoy cooking, don't you? And so maybe in lockdown I heard you talking about how much you were cooking or something.
And on a Sunday, I would spend all my day really reading my cabinet papers and prep for Monday and cooking. So I sort of did both.
Oh, nice.
And I would make,
at the same time.
Yeah, and I'd make my family's meals for the week and leave them for them, because I just sort of thought it was the one to make sure they're actually getting fed well and they are having, the 3 vegetables, and not that he's not capable, but as I say, it was kind of my way of showing that I'm not here, but at least you're eating my food.
Yeah, but I'm looking after you still. Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, bit of that. So because you sold my food bag?
Well, not completely.
No.
So when was it? So my oldest is 9. So it was just after he was born. So it must have been, 8. So it was about 7.5, 8 years ago. Partially sold down to a private equity firm. Yeah. And so then we were kind of in partnership. The 5 of us were in partnership with them for, must be about few more years, and then they listed it on the stock exchange just pre-COVID.
And that have you remained the face of it all the way through? This is me trying to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's still today. It's so different ownership today. Although all 5 of us are still small, tiny shareholders. We're still minority shareholders. We've retained a lot of our shares in it because it's such a fantastic company today. It's still an amazing company. In fact, I think it's even better than what it was because it's really managed to evolve. It's been incredible. If I think back, I've never been a great person at looking back in the past. Like, I'm generally looking towards the future and what's coming up, which is a little bit of a weakness. But when things like, a 10th anniversary comes up, that the business has been going for 10 years or this book's been going for 10 years, it always is an opportunity to pause and reflect back on what has been achieved in 10 years. And man, it is astounding. It astounds me how much the business has evolved.
So you've got the 3 boys, haven't you? We've got
9,
Bodhi,
6,
River,
and 2.
And Arlo. Is Arlo like the spitting image of his father?
I think the middle one's more
looks.
But lots of people have said that Arlo's looks like Carlos. I think it's the blue eyes and blonde hair.
Yeah, I was just looking at the photo and I was just like, wow, you can really see that that likeness. It's just also like, yep, there you go.
You know what I actually think he kind of looks like? you know Legends of the Falls?
Yes.
Brad Pitt with his long hair?
Yes. Yes, you're right.
I reckon Arlo's like the baby version of him. when he wears his little cowboy feeling jacket, because he's got long, wavy blonde hair, I reckon he looks like the baby version of Brad Pitt on Legends with the Falls. Or maybe I just want him to
Maybe
look like
you do. Maybe you do. That's absolutely fine. So now you're an incredible businesswoman. When I look at all you've done and all you've achieved and built over the years, and we're going to take a quick break, but then we want to come back and talk about your move to the farm, how you're juggling all of that, and how we actually take opportunities and how we make them. So we'll be back shortly. You are back with Ask Me Anything, and my guest today is Nadia Lim. I want to talk, Nadia, about creating and making opportunities in life. And, it is fascinating that at the age of 12, you kind of knew what you were going to do. And then we've already talked about my food bag in that first half. And now we're going to talk about moving to the farm and everything. But is it planned, or how much of it is kind of, you're obviously ambitious, you're obviously hardworking to get where you are. But how much of it is a plan, and how much of it is meeting people like Cecilia and James and those opportunities coming along?
I think it's a combination. The best way that I can describe it, I like to liken things to whenever I'm trying to explain stuff to my kids, I often come up with analogies, like real analogies of what they can kind of see around them in their environment and nature and everything. And the way that I like to explain it is, you can see your mountain and you can see the peak, and you know that you need to get there, but you don't necessarily know the pathway that you're going to take to get there. And when you start on your journey, on your pathway, you'll be faced with different pathways to take, obviously. Do you go left or right or straight? And that's when you have to use your gut instinct and have your eyes and ears open to the opportunities. So, yeah, I think it's both. It's like you need to know where you're going to get, where you need to get to, and where your mountaintop is, but you have to be flexible with the way that you get there. I think if you weren't flexible with your plan on how to get there, then you would miss some opportunities.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
And the other thing, another analogy, what I've experienced, what Carlos and I have experienced, is we felt like we were like, oh, okay, we're just about to get to our peak, our mountaintop, and then we get there and then we go, oh shit, we didn't realize there was this other one to climb because we couldn't see it before. But then all of a sudden there's another mountain and another peak to get to.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, so you've got to be prepared for surprises too.
Thank goodness though, right? Because that's life, and that's got to be exciting, and it's not like, oh, well, I've made it and now I'll just sit back and, it's like, no, actually life's still an adventure and everything else. And when you met Carlos, which was over 20 years ago now, you knew that he wanted to go back to farming, didn't you? Because he grew up on a farm. But that's a big move. How long ago did you move to Royalburn, to the farm?
So we bought the farm 8 years ago. However, we moved there 6 years ago. We moved onto the property 6 years ago. Yes, we've been there for 6 years.
So you have done a lot in 6 years when you think about the lambs, the chickens, the abattoir. You've got everything sort of happening on the farm, and then you've got that wonderful little shop in Arrowtown that I've been to, which was
and a bigger one in Queenstown now too, called McKibbin's.
Was going to ask if you've done it yet. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So we named it after the founding farmer, William McKibbin, who founded the farm in the late 1880s. And we thought, let's call the shop after him. So
I like that.
McKibbin's in Queenstown and the original Rawburn farm shop in Arrowtown.
And as part of it for the boys to grow up there and have that kind of lifestyle, was that what you were looking for?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you say, Carlos and I met 20 years ago at university. So I was 19 and he'd just had his 20th birthday. And on our second date, we were kind of talking about, what we wanted to do and our futures. And as a bit of a test, Carlos was testing the waters, but he mentioned that, if we ended up staying together, that I would have to be okay with going farming because that's what he always imagined he would go do, sometime in the future. And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool to me. Sounds like a fun adventure.
Not every Auckland city slicker girl would say that.
No, yeah. So I think he was quite impressed. I think he was like, okay, yeah, I think I can keep dating this girl. Yep, she seems like she's up for it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so the ideas, did you go in with a firm idea of what the farm was going to look like in 6 years' time? I mean, you guys had a business plan and we've all watched it. But it does keep evolving, doesn't it? And is that about just sort of seeing an opportunity and taking it? Or is it quite a clear plan?
It is too. Again, there was a bit of a plan for what we wanted the farm to be. So the farm was actually meant to be, it was consented as a luxury subdivision property. So that's what it was going to be turned into. And then when we took it over, we said, nah, this should not be turned into a subdivision. That would be a crime. Today, it's the largest undeveloped piece of land in the Wakatipu Basin that is still a farm and that still produces food on scale. It's the only one left because everything is being sold up to property development here or overseas and foreigners. And producing food production is important. We need to be a resilient food nation. So we were like, hell no, is this becoming a subdivision? We're keeping it as a farm and we're going to produce food and we're going to produce it on scale, not just a lifestyle hobby thing. And we're going to try and do it in the most sustainable, ethical way possible. So we knew what we wanted to do, and we also wanted it to be a genuine, true farm-to-plate farm. So, we do the actual primary production, but then we carry it through right until it gets onto your plate as well. And so we have achieved that, but again, we didn't realize the ride that we were in for in terms of how we would get there, and it's really been a roller coaster of like a lot of. We've definitely, if people have watched the TV show, Nadia's Farm, which did 3 seasons, like we've had some great wins, but man, we've had some bad fails as well, like, monstrous, disastrous fails that we just didn't know. We didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't really know what we were getting into. And with no one to kind of look to, because a lot of the things we've tried have been, quite new, we didn't really have anyone to model off, so we were kind of the first ones testing the waters, which is always a bit risky, but
But then look where you've got to, and as you say, you almost learn more from your failures, they say, don't they, putting in the old cliches, than you do from your wins.
Yeah,
and as a consequence of that.
Absolutely you do. The biggest learning, like overall, is what would I say? The reason why we enjoy it and why we keep doing it, even though it's probably a financially terrible return, farming is not a good financial return. Let's face it, unless you're in dairy or kiwi fruit. Those two industries do quite well, but all other farming, terrible investment and return. But the reason we keep doing it is we absolutely love learning. We're so passionate as well about our food system and making sure that we can produce really high quality food and in a sustainable, ethical way. But what I've really learned, the overall big learning, is that things aren't black and white. There's more shades of grey than there is black and white. If you haven't been in it, it's very easy to have an opinion about how our food should be produced and how we should farm and what we should do for the environment and all those things. But until you have been on the land and you have done the groundwork yourself and had your hand in the soil and had your neck on the line to make it all work, I kind of think you can't really have an opinion, because people are very quick to judge and give their opinions on how things should be done. And I can say this because I used to be a city slicker who used to say the same things. I'd be like, me and Carlos used to have these huge arguments over over farming. I'd be like, why? Why are we doing that? Like, that's just wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be tailing the lambs. Shouldn't, that's stressful to them. We shouldn't do this. And then when I've now lived it and gone through it all, I'm like, this is why we do certain things.
Yeah.
And it's really trying to find that balance between the best of both worlds. And you also can't put farmers into a box and farming practices into a box. Like, people talk all these kind of, topical words like regenerative farming and organic and conventional and everything. However, I would say that a lot of the time, probably the best route to take is a bit of a mixture of all of those things, depending. You can't just be black and white. You can't go, we're going to be 100% organic. We tried that, by the way. Like, if you watched again on the show.
Yeah, I did see that.
I said to Carlos, our market garden is going to be 100% organic. I don't care that it used to be a conventional barley farm. And because he was like, it's not going to work if it goes from a conventional barley farm with all, barley's been in the ground for this many years, and you try and go organic straight away, like you're going to have so much trouble. And I was like, nah, we're being organic. We're being 100% organic. We're not using anything, no sprays, no chemicals, no additives, no synthetic fertilizers, nothing. We're going organic because that's how I like to grow my vegetables at home. And I want other people to have organic vegetables. And wow, did we fail? And now I look back and I'm like, what would have been a much smarter thing to do? We needed to take steps towards being organic. You can't go from zero to hero. Like, you need to earn your stripes. And we should have started off maybe going spray-free at first for a few years and then worked our way towards that being organic. But yeah, and it's only until you do these things that you're like, wow, things aren't as easy as what they seem, and things aren't black and white. And if anyone gives you a black and white opinion, they have no idea what they're talking about.
And a lot of those in politics.
Yeah, I bet. Yes, I bet.
I used to call it the if you only did this one thing, the country would just be absolutely fine and be, you know what I mean? Like, and it's whatever, insert whatever's person's pet interest or, and I still have it now, like if they only, and I just go, you've got no idea of the complexities of it. And if you move that piece, you've got to think about how that one is as well. And you're making trade-offs and it's all hard and it's,
I can only imagine.
Oh, yeah.
I have to take this opportunity and thank you for all you've done. I mean, I have respect for all politicians, no matter which party you're going for. Like, you guys have a hard job.
Yeah,
you have to balance so many things that people just don't see behind the scenes. And I look at it and I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have the stomach to do it. So yeah, hat off to you, Paula.
Thank you.
What you've been through and what you've done and what you've achieved and where you're going.
Good to move on from there, I've got to say. But it was definitely a ride. Okay, so we're going to talk about opportunities a bit more, because I was just been thinking about you, getting ready, and I just kept thinking, wow, for some of us, they, as I say, people think they've got this absolute clear path that they're just going to walk down, and then, for you, that opportunity really opened up from my perception, not knowing you. It was with MasterChef. So did you go on with your love of cooking and you thought it would be fun, or did you go on because you just thought, wow, this could be a real opportunity for you? You created your brand, your business. I mean, I hate calling a person a brand, but was there a plan with that, or was it just kind of like
the reason I when I think back to how I felt at that point 15 years ago, what spurred me to enter it was I felt this inner need to really test myself and challenge myself to see how much I loved food and cooking. I did it as a test to myself. I was like, I'm going to enter this and see like how far can I go? How much grit have I got to actually try and see how much I really love food. That was kind of how I viewed it and how I felt at that point of time.
And then, because Carlos has got because you both studied in Dunedin, and that's where you met, and then he's got a degree in marketing, doesn't he? So that's kind of
psychology.
his, and psychology. So that's sort of his. So then coming out of there, and I do kind of get it that you thought you had this window of opportunity to get other opportunities, with people sort of knowing you. And I felt that when I left politics, it was like, well, you've got to do something, you've got to do it relatively quickly. Otherwise, everyone's going to forget about you in 12 months' time. And, so this was kind of, so he really took time out then as well to help build your combined business, not just your business, but you both sort of really then dug in and thought about how to build that business and what direction that might take you. Am I right?
Kind of, yeah. So I was suddenly thrust in, when the show ended, there's no manual or guidebook whatsoever. And no one, there was only Brett McGregor, who was in the first season before me, to kind of call on. And I think he was still kind of fumbling his way and feeling his way through what to do as well. And you know what? The advice that we had from the production company per se, this is exactly what they said, was whatever you do, don't give up your day job. That was the advice I got in the week following having won the show. They said very clearly, whatever you do, don't give up your day job. As in, because I must have seen it before, people win these reality shows and stuff, and then they think, oh, my life's sorted and my career's sorted and everything's going to be sweet. This is what I'm going to do. And then, whoops, no, that's totally not how it works. Like, you have to work your ass off. And so that was what I was told. Someone said, oh, you're hot right now and you'll be on the front page of the newspaper, and in a few weeks' time you'll be old fish and chip wrapper. Like, someone said that to me as well. And fair enough. I think that, in most cases it's probably good advice not to give up your day job. And so I didn't. I went back to work, but there was just, this thing in me. I was like, no, I think the biggest regret I could ever have is not trying to achieve my dream, my 12-year-old dream. And so I ended up giving up my job and just completely threw the towel in. I had no income, no real set plan of what I was going to do. I started doing catering jobs, got a job in a restaurant as well, and did that for like 6 months while I was kind of just figuring out what I wanted to do. And then, somewhere along the line there, Carlos, I kept saying to him, this is our one chance, our one opportunity. Like, you need to give up your job too and come along this journey with me if we're going to make anything of it. And, he was climbing the corporate ladder. He was doing really well at Fisher & Paykel. And in fact, they'd actually just sent him off on one of those leadership courses. And on the leadership course, they had to spend 3 days by themselves in the bush to think about, life and everything. And he came out of that thinking, actually, the corporate world's not for me. I'm gonna give up my job. And so he came back one day and surprised me, and he was like, you know what, I've quit too. Let's go on this. Let's give this thing a go. And then so we took off from there, and he was very much like, okay, first step is we need to build brand Nadia. And from there on, it was all about kind of building brand Nadia, what we stood for.
It is that, you both were relatively young. We've always got something to lose, so don't get me wrong. But you didn't have the children then. You could kind of just give it a damn good go.
Yes,
and that's what they say even about retirement savings or whatever. You can actually be, a bit more risk-taking and a bit more adventurous when you're younger. It's when you get a bit older and it's harder to rebuild, or if you do lose a bit, then, to get it back. And so you guys, you sort of had, and I don't want to say nothing to lose, because of course you did, and I know that you'd both saved so hard and had property and things like that. But man, what a time to go for it and take that opportunity.
Oh, you're totally right. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, I think to do that now, I wouldn't have the guts to risk it all. But you're so right. Like, it's being young, not having kids. We were 24, 25.
Yeah.
And we just got married. And we were like, what have we got to lose? Let's put all of our savings into doing this thing, and we'll work for free. I mean, we worked for free for a couple of years, and we were very lucky. My parents let us live rent-free for 6 months. We got a 6-month rent-free stint with them at their house, so that helped us. And we just took on any work we could to get by, at the same time as building the brand in the background and looking out for opportunities and taking them up when the time was right. Age definitely helps. I'm not gonna lie and pretend that you can. I mean, you still can do it at any age, obviously, but now with 3 kids and a business and property and your home and everything, I would be more risk adverse.
Yeah. So let's talk about that family as we sort of head towards the end. And you've got the 3 children, and and you talked about Carlos going away for that 4 months, and that juggle of all of your businesses, because you've got so many that you've got your fingers in, the 2 of you, and then running a farm, and then allowing him to have the sort of 4 months to go off and do something really adventurous, which I celebrate with you. Actually, I just think it's so healthy. But how do you work on that mothering, that wifing, that farming, that business sense? That do you enjoy the chaos? Because it must be.
Yeah, it is. It is. Do I enjoy it? Well, I kind of thrive off not having Well, I've got kind of a bit of routine, but I like to have variety. I definitely quite enjoy wearing lots of different hats. I'm not a person that could do the same thing day in, day out, whereas, I've got friends that thrive on that. They love having the knowing what each day is going to bring, whereas mine's quite definitely very different from week to week and month to month and year to year. So, I enjoy that. But how do you get people, one of the most common questions that people ask is, how do you balance it all?
Yeah.
And what would I say? Well, I guess sometimes I think people get confused and they think that balance has got to be on a day-to-day or week-to-week thing. You've got to make sure that you've got some family time and you've got some work time and you've got some you time and all of that every day. Whereas I view it more of a long-term thing. It's like, again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you want to get ahead, sometimes you have to work so hard that you will work to almost burning yourself out. Like that's been my experience. And but as long as you know that it's not forever and you know where there's going to be an end point, you're like, okay, for the next 3 months, we're going to have to put our heads down, our butts up, and just go for it. And there's not going to be much time for doing anything else or having much time for yourself. But as long as you know that there's an end point to it, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that. I think that there's going to be times where it's very intense and you will just be working yourself to the bone, and you'll be working at both ends, burning both ends of the candle. But equally, then once you've kind of done that, then take a bit of a break, and
I agree with you. Balance can look quite different.
Yeah, and I think people just get mixed up sometimes that they're like, balance has to be on a daily basis, that you got to fit all those things in day to day. But I don't agree with that. I think it's like sometimes parts of your life you're going to have to go really hard and you're going to have to sacrifice and it's going to be intense. And then other times you're going to get to relax a bit more. You're going to get to spend more time on yourself and your friends and your family and everything. However, in saying that, with having kids, I have learnt that you've always, of course, got to be there and present for your kids. And I used to feel a little bit guilty with working quite a bit with having the kids, but I also see the positives of it. I think it's really healthy that the boys see that their parents actually have to work, that things don't just come for free and just don't just happen. Like we've actually really got to work for it. I think that's good for them to see us both working.
Really healthy. I agree.
And it really also makes you, I've really learnt to, in the last few years, cherish what I call micro moments. It's almost like I photograph precious moments. Like I've just spent time with my oldest in Japan. So we just got back yesterday. And I was like, I had tears in my eyes so many times, and I was just kind of photographing the memory in my head when he would, just grab my hand and hold on to my hand really tight. He's 9.
Yeah.
And he's not, next year he might not want to hold his mum's hand.
Yeah.
And it was just so special. So I've become really good at, whenever a special moment kind of happens, I really take note of it, and I liken it to photographing it in my head so I can hold on to that forever. Quality, a lot of the time over quantity.
But I think you've given some amazing advice just then, and there'll be people listening that are just going, I get that and I see where you're coming from. So finally, for this segment, I would love to know, what was the best advice you were ever given? And who was it given to you by?
If I think back, so my dad, when I was a teenager, so I must have been around kind of 15-ish, I guess, and I was a pretty ambitious teenager, and he said to me, he was like, Nadia, just remember, the most important thing is you think about how you can help others, and success will be a byproduct of that. Like, don't necessarily think about how you're going to be successful and how you're going to make all this money, and don't approach it that way. Approach it from the other end. How can you be useful? How can you have purpose? How can you help others? And your success will be a byproduct of that. So that was really good advice.
Really good advice.
And the other good piece of advice was from a guy called Kim Thorpe, who owns Black Barn in Hawke's Bay. It's a wonderful place.
Yes, it is.
You've heard of it. I love that area. And one day we were there and we were talking about our ideas for the farm and what we wanted to turn it into. And he just kind of like stopped us and looked at us and he just said, just my one piece of advice would just make sure you enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we were always talking about what we're going to do and where we're going to be and where we're going to end up and what we want to achieve. But you can get caught up in all of that and you can sometimes forget to enjoy the journey along the way.
Yeah, the experience.
So that was good advice.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that's wonderful. So, Nadia, the podcast is called Ask Me Anything, and I have been doing all the asking, but got some terrific advice from you during that process. So this is your opportunity if you would like to ask me anything.
Oh, okay. Well, a bit of a selfish request, but since I'm turning 40 this year, what advice would you give yourself when you were 40?
What advice would... Oh, that's a good one. Keep up the exercise, keep the body moving. I think it's more 50, but I think that, I think we sort of think, we can slow down a bit, or we can, you're so busy on the farm and active and you've got young children anyway, so you have to kind of keep that up. But I must admit at my age now, I'm seeing other people who are almost seizing up and I'm like, you got to keep moving, man. I know that sounds, but I think, you've obviously got the nutrition and all that sort of thing, but I just think sometimes we don't look after our bodies enough. And then it's give yourself a break. I do think you kind of, at each decade, you should be able to chill out a little bit more, say no to things that you really don't want to do, not do things out of obligation. There is that sort of people pleasing and we do everything. And I just think that, certainly I did it more at 40. I certainly do it now more in my 50s, is get not quite selfish, but it is that old adage that if you're not putting yourself first, then how can you, put your own mask on and then your children's. And I think there is a little bit of that. So I hope you get to have, I love that you went away with your son like that. You're just never going to get that back, right? It's, making those sorts of memories and things. So I reckon you cop yourself some time and do those things that you just absolutely are never going to regret and love.
Cool. No, that's good. That's good to hear. It reinforces what I'm trying to do. So
good.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Nadia, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I've just thoroughly enjoyed the time with you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much, Paula.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, if you are one of the very few people in New Zealand who don't already have Easy Weeknight Meals on your bookshelf, 10th anniversary edition is in the stores now. And even if you do own it, there's new recipes in there. So go and buy yourself go grab another copy because you need it and you need it in your life. And that's it for another episode of Ask Me Anything. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you check out some previous guests while you're there. I will be back next Sunday with another fabulous person. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.